Are you a Black woman who has gone from pet to threat in the workplace and you're confused, you're disillusioned, you don't know what happened? If so, this video is for you. I also went through this phenomenon coined by three Black women professors, which I'll get into in a second. But this is what happens to us in the workplace. So if you're interested in this topic, you're interested in learning more about what happened to you and realizing that you're not alone, please continue to watch this video and we'll get into it. Hi, everyone. Welcome to my channel. My name is Marissa Price. I am a Black woman social worker, educator, healer, really sharing my story to help other Black women heal and for us to have a safe place to share our authentic stories on the internet, which is rare. It's very rare. So if you're here, please subscribe. Please like this video. Please share your experiences below if you feel comfortable doing so around going from pet to threat in the workplace, right? Going from being sought out for your talents, for your skills, for your abilities, all of your brilliance, only for those same talents, skills, and abilities to be viewed in a negative light, for people who are deeply insecure to be triggered by that brilliance. And that is really the phenomenon from pet to threat, coined by three Black women professors again, Dr. Keisha Thomas, Dr. Juanita Johnson Bailey, and Dr. Rosemary Phelps. These women have given us the term for what so many of us have experienced in the workplace, going from, again, having the red carpet rolled out for you, right? A lot of us, I know for me, being sought out for my specific area of expertise, which was economic development. So I have a bachelor's degree in finance. I have a master's degree in social work, concentrating in economic development. I was perfectly positioned to excel in this role. And so the first role that I was given, because there was this additional role added to what I was doing when I first came into this job, which I know happens for a lot of us. We will gain additional responsibilities, things added onto our plates, and it's really difficult sometimes to say no when your livelihood is really dependent on holding down this job, on maintaining it. And these jobs know that, right? And they put us in those positions and those predicaments, which is why it's time to get free. Right before we really get into it, I really want to tell you about the Job Liberation Virtual Summit that I will be hosting, co-hosting with Dr. Kamani Norrington Sands of Lifting As We Climb Consulting on YouTube. Her channel is all about toxic jobs and how we heal, recover, begin to understand what happened to us at toxic jobs. And together we will be hosting a summit, a virtual summit for Black women to begin to exit plan, understand what happened to us, understand the ramifications and impacts on our bodies, on our minds, on our mental health, and also those practical exit planning strategies so that you can leave, whether that means starting your own business, getting a different job, a remote job, a contract role, or cashing out of discrimination. A lot of us are being discriminated based on a protected class in these jobs. How to cash out, how to document these things so that you can potentially negotiate a severance package. So these are all going to be things that are going to be discussed at the Job Liberation Virtual Summit happening May 18th and 19th online. And you can register now. Go to jobliberation.heysummit.com to get your ticket. And yeah, let's get into it. So, like I said, I had the perfect background. I went to school, I excelled, right? All the academic honors that you could think of, that was me. I am a recovering overachiever, so someone who always has done the most. And through a process of healing, just like kind of putting this in there, realizing that a lot of that, the majority of it, stems from early childhood wounds and really having these holes in me that I'm trying to fill with external acknowledgement, with accomplishments, with titles, with degrees, with all of these things. And that's the case for a lot of us because of the society that we live in. It really pokes holes into us as children, tells us that all these things are wrong with us, and then sells us, right, serves us the remedy to this as external validation, as achievements, as straight A's, as, someone telling you you're finally worthy. And that was the cycle I was in, constantly seeking that. So, like I said, yeah, having the perfect background, coming into this role, excelling in this role, being asked to do a second role right around the 2020, when a lot of things were happening in the United States. At the time, the murder of George Floyd really kind of spawned all of these corporations, these companies to do these initiatives kind of to outdo each other. It felt like a competition. And please put in the comments if you remember that time. That time was wild. If y'all remember that time, you know how wild that was. And so I was asked to take on a DEI position, essentially, leading a strategy to help reduce the racial wealth gap. And like I said, my background is perfect for this. I have a degree in finance. I have been a financial analyst at a top bank in the United States right out of college. So I have that experience. And then from that experience, I transitioned to economic development by going to graduate school to get my master's degree. So I was perfectly positioned to lead this. And the thing going from pet to threat, it's not for your lack of knowledge that you're being treated like this. It's not anything that you're doing. And I want to impart that. And I want to emphasize that this is a response also to Dr. Kamani's video, how I went from pet to threat at a toxic job, which I will link in the description if you want to watch that as well. But to emphasize that it's nothing that you're doing. And you can fall into this cycle of trying to understand why people are treating you like this, understand why they sought you out for your skill set. And now they're intimidated by you when you're exhibiting that skill set. It is confusing, right? The basis of oppression, a lot of it is confusing because it doesn't make logical sense. Why are you treating me this way when I didn't do anything to you? Well, what you did, right, by being you, by being brilliant, by bringing all your talents and skills and abilities to the table, you didn't do anything, but their insecurity is being triggered. So when their insecurity is being triggered, they will try to go after you to eliminate that response within themselves because they are not emotionally regulated. A lot of these folks are power hungry, so they view any right attempt in their minds to challenge their authority as okay. Now I have to go after this person, whether that looks like you can see it, everyone else can see it, or whether it looks like covert treatment, mistreatment. Them making remarks behind your back, them making remarks about other coworkers, which I had happen to me, which is called triangulation. When someone tries to pit you against another person and act as the power source in between you two, that is called triangulation. That is a facet of narcissistic abuse, which we see playing out in the workplace over and over, right? And from pet to threat really kind of aligns with the narcissistic abuse model as well. You're coming in, you know, they're showering you with all these things, with all this praise for what you can do, giving you this treatment, the love bombing phase, really, within a narcissistic relationship. And then all of a sudden it switches up. After you get past that, after you've maybe given feedback that someone wasn't comfortable with, we know this is the case for Black women so often. They ask for our feedback in these roles, and then they don't want it when we speak because it didn't align with what they wanted us to say. Well, then you shouldn't have asked me to provide feedback. That's confusing. And that's a tactic that is often deployed, right? And so when you're dealing with all of this confusion, going from pet to threat in the workplace, being sought out again for your talents, your skills, your abilities, and then that switch happens. And there's no one around you who can really understand what you're going through, and you feel isolated, you feel alone, that's when things like depressive symptoms start to pop up. Trying to understand what happened to you. You're trying to understand why people are mistreating you because a lot of us grow up with the teaching that if someone is harming you, then it must be something you're doing to make them harm you. I want you, please, to unlearn that because that's not true. That's not true. A lot of times people harm you because you trigger something within them. It's nothing that you're doing. It's them. They are being triggered, and so they lash out and they harm you. We don't have to internalize that. And it's even more important to not gaslight yourself about what you're experiencing, and to be in safe spaces like this one I'm creating on this channel, that Dr. Kamani is creating on her channel, Lifting as We Climb Consulting, to be around other Black women who have experienced this, so that we can show ourselves that we're not making this up, that this is a pattern of mistreatment, a pattern of behavior that we are witnessing over and over again in the workplace. And the time is up. It's enough. As we have seen with the passing of Dr. Antoinette Candia Bailey, right? This is serious. This is life and death. Going from pet to threat can be a life or death matter when you have no one around you who can really understand what you're going through. And you continue to spiral into depression. I was diagnosed with major depressive disorder, having gone through this experience. I know I'm not the only one. I have heard Black women's stories over and over again of being diagnosed with depression as a natural result of being mistreated and harmed in the workplace. This is real. And like I said, it impacts our health, our sleep. We're going to be talking about the summit, how to heal from insomnia, our mental health, our bodies break down. We're experiencing physical symptoms of stress from being lied to. Because that's what it is. Let's be honest, that's what it is. From pet to threat is someone who is only interested in having our face for their promotional materials, their marketing, for them to look good, without wanting our feedback. They don't want our feedback. They want us to sit in the corner, close our mouths, close our eyes sometimes because we see things that we bring up. They don't want us to speak up about that either. They want us to sit in the corner with our faces so that they can take pictures of us and use us for marketing materials. That is up. That's done. No. Because what that is denying our humanity. No. So if you have experience going from pet to threat, I will link more about this in the description section. But essentially it is going from the love bombing phase. If you are familiar with narcissistic relationships, where all this praise, all this, special treatment is showered upon you. People are thanking you for contributing. People are recruiting you, bringing you in for your skill set. And then that switch happens because someone's insecurity was triggered who is in a position of power. You didn't do anything but be your brilliant self by expressing your creativity, by bringing the knowledge that you've gained to the table, by offering suggestions for improvement, all the things that were in your role. They lied to you. They really didn't actually want you to do that. No, they wanted to use you as a pawn. And so by you actually fulfilling your job description, now you're going against what they actually wanted you to do, which was to just sit there, not say anything, and make them look good. Because a lot of us are entering into these jobs, in these fields, in these professions, in such good faith. But the people who are seeking us out are not. They're not. So it's that point of tension, and that's when the shift occurs from pet to threat. Because now all of a sudden you're acting outside of the role that these folks wanted you to sit in, but you had no awareness of that. But how you can bring your awareness to that, if you are experiencing this disillusionment, this confusion, is by listening to other Black women share our stories around going through the exact same thing in the workplace. And before I watched Dr. Kamani's channel, before I stumbled across it, just over a year ago, I had no idea what was happening to me. I was working even harder to try to gain people's approval so that they would stop undercutting me, stop talking over me. Now I realize that's a losing game. And the only way to win is to walk away. And not saying that you have to do that immediately, because it took me time to be able to get my finances together, which we're going to talk about at the summit coming up. Registration is now open. Jobliberation.heysummit.com to get your finances together, to get your mindset together, which can be difficult to do when you're in a toxic environment. But you need time sometimes to make that exit plan, which we're going to walk you through. But I do want to be transparent that it is going to be near impossible to begin to heal from what you've experienced. Again, this confusing, disillusioning thing that you have no idea what's happening. Someone's telling you one thing that they want you for your skill set, and then they're undermining you when you utilize that skill set. This is a toxic environment because they're lying to you. They're not being honest with you. They're not acting in good faith, and you are suffering the consequences of that. Because they just can't come out and tell you, we just wanted you to be here so we could use you for marketing. Wouldn't that be so much easier? I mean, it may sting, but wouldn't that be so much easier if they were upfront? But that's not how oppression works. Oppression doesn't work. The oppressor doesn't give away what they're doing and tell you so that you are able to make a plan. They do it behind the scenes, especially today. Because there are laws in place and all of these things that make it more difficult for them to get away with it if they were to do it out in the open. So they do it behind the scenes, and they like to get us by ourselves so that they can mistreat us, so that they can harm us, so that they can confuse us. And all of a sudden we're experiencing depression and perhaps even suicidal ideation. Because now you start to question your own skills, talents, abilities. The world is flipped upside down. Everything that you came into this role with, everything that you worked so hard to achieve, is now being called into question because they're lying to you. It has nothing to do with you. A point I constantly want to emphasize. And if you have experienced any of this, please share it in the comments, because we learn from each other's experiences. I'm still learning. Every time I hear another Black woman share her story, I'm like, ooh, that happened to me. And I didn't even, now it's just coming back. That I experienced that too. Thank you for sharing that. So none of this is our fault. What it is a system of oppression that we are encountering. And we know as Black women, we experience anti-Blackness, sexism, misogyny, and add on to that all the other additional oppressions, oppressive systems that you're encountering. The more identities that you have that fall outside of the dominant identity. Intersectionality, a term coined by Kimberly Crenshaw. The more identities that you have that fall outside of that dominant thing that we see, the pressure to fall into, whether that be ableism, right? Ageism, fat phobia, right? Homophobia, all of these things, the more identities that you have that fall outside the dominant space, the more oppression that you're going to face. And where in the United States, especially, is the most time that we spend? It's at work. So these are going to be the spaces where you are harmed deeply. And it's not right. And that's why we're hosting this summit, specifically for Black women, right? To liberate ourselves from these environments that are harming us, literally taking years off of our lives. This is how serious this is. It's cutting short our lives for a paycheck, for a job title that we are taught to seek and taught to attach our identity to, So it becomes even more dangerous when someone tries to question our abilities, our position in that title. If I have tied my identity, my whole identity as a person to that job title, and you're questioning that, now you're questioning if I can even be, if I even have what it takes to be here in my body on earth. It gets that deep. And we have seen this again with Black women dying, working, right? Working ourselves to the bone, and then wanting to take our lives, feeling like that's the only option, rather. This is a community to support you, to uplift you, to tell you that there are other options, and we're going to show you what they are because we've been through it and we felt like there were no options. But we both made it to the other side, and everyone who's speaking made it to the other side. So if that doesn't give you hope, that there is a way, that you don't have to be harmed day in and day out, you don't have to experience the really drastic mental health impacts and effects of going from pet to threat, the confusion around that really does a number on our self-esteem. I'm still recovering over a year later after leaving the job that I was in. That impacted my self-confidence to such a level that I haven't even really dealt with the full extent of that. Because the confusion, the mental fog that it creates when you are being traumatized day in and day out, when you're actually excelling, but someone's lying to you and telling you that you're not doing well. How does that harm us psychologically? What are the lasting mental health impacts of that? That is what we're going to be talking about at the Job Liberation Virtual Summit happening online, May 18th and 19th. Again, you can register now. Early bird pricing ends April 20th, but go to jobliberation.heysummit.com to register. And if privacy is a concern of yours, if you're afraid someone's going to see that you're there will be no cameras for participants allowed. And there will also be the option to change your name within the summit platform to whatever you choose. You can be anonymous and participate that way if you want to. But we are providing this information for you to be able to make your exit plan, move through your fears, reclaim your dreams, and get to the other side, because we're representing that there is another side to this. Again, there was a time when I was in a toxic job, I could not see the other side. And a lot of us can't, but we're showing to you and demonstrating to you that there is. So please hold on to that hope. Know that this is a safe community for you to be able to share your experiences in the comments if you feel safe to do so that we can learn from each other and realize we're not alone in any of this. Unfortunately, it's a global issue. Going from pet to threat is a global issue that Black women experience, and enough is enough. So thank you so much for watching this video. Again, please like, subscribe to my channel for similar content, and I will talk to you all later. Thank you.